with Halloween around the corner, and everybody talking about spooky stuff, I was gonna be like, nah, I'm gonna do my own thing. I review sensitive. I don't think I can say that word. I was like, nah, let's actually show some horror to the people. And I was like, well, what horror anime can I recommend? Horror anime tends to like suck a lot. I recalled at the back of my head, the top of my cranium, a very weird series that I watched. Hello everyone, Ren here, our alias, and today I shall talk about Yamishibai, Theater of Darkness. Now, this is a horror anime that focuses on short stories. And the animation is, it's worse than me, goddamn. Like, it's an animated comic. So, it's a 2D image, and then the arm just goes like this, or the head just goes like this. It's not very well animated. And I think that's why it's gotten, goddamn 11 seasons. It is insane how long running the show is. And the main component of the show is the slow build-up. Each episode follows a very specific formula. We have our main protagonist, then we have the spooky thing going around, then something spooky happens, and then you get jump scared. Pretty much. That's the loop all of these episodes go through. But of course you can say, well, that's just horror movies, you know? Well, not all the horror movies jump scare you. Some episodes do suck, and the later seasons, they fell off. The season finale of season 3 is one of the best. In Yamishibai, there's this guy with the mask who's our host, the crypt keeper, and he tells kids horror stories. And for the first 2 seasons he does, and on the 3rd season they did away with it. It was just now a kid that draws, and at the end of the episode he draws the monster. And you're like, oh, I guess I just wanted to switch it around. But at the end of season 3, you get to learn about the kid and around the man that tells horror stories. And it was really cool because it's like, oh, you've been seeing these guys for 3 seasons, now you get to actually know them. So the first 3 seasons are peak. I dropped it off after season 5 because it was just not as entertaining. So I'm gonna recall to you 2 of my favorite episodes. The first one is, funnily enough, the season 1's season finale. They really saved their best for last. It's called Tormentor. Basically, these 2 boys live in this countryside where there's this weird ritual that goes on. And then there's something in the distance, and if you look at it in the eyes, it comes to kill you. And the boy is like, oh, let me see. And his friend saw it. And then his friend started crying. And you're like, oh, what the fuck? Then, as he was about to see, he picks up the binoculars. As he was about to see what his friend did. Or he gets, called out by someone. And he stops. Then we don't learn what happened to his friend. He had a funeral, but everybody stopped him from seeing his friend. He was like, no, you can't see. It's too horrible for you to see. Just know that your friend is not very well. Then, at the end, the boy goes back to the place, and he's looking around in binoculars. And I won't spoil what happens, but it is very well done. There's a lot of a lot of horror relies on jump scares a lot. We all know that, but I don't think jump scares are bad, on their own. If I play a loud sound like this, no, I'm just kidding, I'm not gonna jump scare you. That's gonna make you jump, but that'll be really cheap. This felt really earned. Because it was, it had a loud sound and it was, scary. But it was in-theme scary. When a horror movie is about, a silent ghost that just goes around, and then you get jump scared, you're like, oh, you got me, cheap reaction. But when it's something that is established to, just jump at you, and then you're done, then the jump scare makes sense. And that's what this specific story does. It is really well done. It's a season 1 finale. I highly recommend you watch Tormentor. There is another episode in season 1 that I really like. It's called The Umbrella Woman, which is a direct reference to the 8 foot tall woman. I think we all know her, like Lady Dimitrescu. Just kidding. It's, I think, who Lady Dimitrescu is based on. Now, I read this story before, and if you read that story before, you know what happens. Basically, if this tall woman approaches you and talks to you, you're fucked. You gotta get locked in a room, and you don't gotta open the door for nothing. You're locked in there with incense or rice, something that turns black as the ghost approaches. If you open the door, you fucking die. And this episode did something very similar called The Umbrella Woman. Like, it's a direct inspiration. It's basically, it copied its homework, and it said, oh, no, my guy is different. Basically, that happens to this boy. He was visiting his friend when he saw the woman, and then everybody's like, you gotta do this shit. Like, you can't be stupid, but it's a horror show, so of course the kid is stupid. And it's very tastefully built up. No cheap jump scares in this episode. The boy, like, especially the night scene, the boy is like asleep on his bed, and he just hears like rattling and voices, and like voices he knows, and then the voice of the Umbrella Woman, and it's just rattling and stuff. And then as the more rattling goes on, the more the incense turns like black, and it is insanely well done. The tension, like, it never put something there to make you jump. It's just the boy looking around and all the quick like shots to symbolize how he's looking around. And the end, it's quite good. Highly recommend that one. Every other horror story that they have, they're okay. Out of all the horror anime, like, horror anime has a lot of problems with it. And the later seasons of Yamishibai definitely do have the same problem, where it just feels cheap. And people are saying, oh, it's a cultural thing. What scares a Japanese person might not scare you. Well, that is BS. Japanese people created Ringu and The Grudge. And when I was a kid, I had nightmares that I was going to wake up and see that girl staring me down at the bed, like that one scene. And then I would look down to, like, look away from her, and there would be the white boy at the foot of my bed. That scene, like, still traumatizes me. I'm pretty sure I had a nightmare about this as an adult. So yes, or if you're looking for a good horror show, or not even too good, like a horror anime to get you in the mood for Halloween, highly recommend Yamishibai. Every episode is like 14 minutes. If you just want to watch the ones I recommended, go for it. Oh, I was wrong. Each episode is like 4 minutes. It's not even 10. I grossly misremembered it. Each episode is 4 minutes. They gotta get you in quick. It is insanely short. So you can speed run through it, like, no problem. You just wanna, like, get a lot of scary stories into your system. And well, this has been all. This has been Ren, or Alias. Happy Halloween, people. I'll see you next week. Bye bye.